It is September 1st, and it is now a Tuesday. And this is, of course, the video log that takes 30,000 to a million. Today, I want to talk about mobile. I want to talk about Android versus iOS, and of course, lead into Apple. I just read an article earlier that they're about to make 75 million 5G phones, and of course, I expect them to sell all of them within the year. And I have some comments about that, and I want to kind of do some bro math and also look at a little bit of articles about that. But first, as always, I want to take you through the account and show you what's been going on. Of course, I'm at an all-time high, and I'm now one call option less of Apple. This is the account. I'm sitting at 128,000, a little pre-market pop of $700 here. I was actually 127. I didn't expect it to clear 128, but I am doing pretty well, over $128,000. A bit crazy. I was, I think, almost at 130 in the morning, but then of course everything sold off a little bit. The rest of my account is pretty neutral, ex Apple. I actually only have 3 buys now because of the stock splits. I was able to get rid of one of the Apple calls. It's not that I'm not bullish on Apple. I'm actually very bullish on Apple, but I'll talk about. I just think it's like a little bit overvalued right now, and just lightening up my position. And I want to put some money to work in other areas. So that's about it. But the rest of the account was pretty neutral. A lot of red here, and as far as the positions goes, a lot of green here when it comes to the put option sells and call option sells, especially. So as always, you can pause the video at any moment and you can take a look at the symbol here, the ticker, and then whether it's the price, the strike price of the option, whether it's a put or a call, the expiration date, and whether it's a sell or buy, and the number of share and the number of contracts over here next to the sell or buy. And you can see the daily performance here, this daily change. You can pause anytime. Feel free to gather all the information that you want. This is the account. A lot of option plays, I think about 60, and then about 20 positions here. The largest one, of course, is Apple. I'll show you the account breakdown in a little bit. I really like Visa lately, but today it underperformed. So here's the account tab. Okay, you can see how large of a position Apple is in the account. 280 shares now, down from 300. Actually, anyway, so I had more. I had 75. Yeah, I had 75,000. I'm sorry, 75,000. I wish. I had 75 shares. Now I have the equivalent of 70. I don't know. Anyway, I have 280 shares now, and here's Cameco, 1,200 shares, and of course I have call options sold on most of them. Okay, this is sorted by total return. You can see the top companies here by total loss, and this is of course the amount of equity I have, and you can see that my top 5 biggest holders are in positive territory, which is good when it comes to the assets here. So this is going to fluctuate. I think Nasdaq is futures are up pre-market, and that's why Apple is moving up a little bit. But huge gains, huge gains. I'm very happy to see it, and it makes me a little bit afraid, but it's okay. Now, today's topic is going to be comparing, the market share of Apple iOS versus Android, especially mobile, because I mean that's where most people are. Not everybody's going to be able to afford a computer, but most everybody in the world pretty soon is going to be able to afford a phone. And it seems like from the research I've been doing about market share, it seems like most of the developed world is slowly picking up market share. Apple is slowly picking up market share as far as the mobile operating system in the developed world. Like in UK, there more than 50% of the operating systems on mobile are Apple. Okay, I don't know about the other countries, but I've been reading some articles and trying to get as much statistics as I can. try to get an idea of what's going on in the market. So I'm going to share some of those with you. Let me go over to the browser here. And this one here shows, let me see what you can see. Well, that's 74% there on the top left on Android that you can barely see. And then iOS is 25%. This is the global counter. And right now, Apple is about 25. Last year, about this time, it was about 22. So it's picked up 3% of the operating systems globally, which is really big. And I want to talk about why. And that is because Apple's App Store revenue is about, I want to say $22 billion plus. And then Google, as a comparison, Google Play, which is, Android, nets about like $11 billion. So it's half, even though they have so much, a much higher market share. Okay, you can see in orange here. And so it's really hopeful because every single percentage that Apple picks up is going to be able to convert into app sales and other type of activities related to the iOS. And so I pulled up some statistics here, and you can see there was 56 billion first-time apps installed on the platforms in 2019. Okay, and 14.8 billion came from the App Store, which decreased, but it's mainly due to slowdown in China. But the second quarter saw a bounce back of 3% year over year. So, in conclusion, okay, this article's trash. I don't know why I pulled it up. The statistics are a little bit confusing, actually. So, the market share keeps bouncing around, and different articles present different data, and it's kind of hard to sort through. But here's an interesting one here, where smartphone maker by shipments, this is just for phones, right? And you can see that Apple, I don't know if you can actually see, but Apple's got like a high, low 20s in percent, which is more than the 16% it had, in 2018 Q1. In 2019 Q4, it had like 23% or something like that, about 20%. So a lot more phones being bought worldwide. And this is the statistic that I really care about over here, which is the install base of the operating system. Because as I discussed earlier, Apple is just in the beginning stages of monetizing its users, right, of its platform, which is the phone. And so you can see they've picked up, they now have 27% or so of the operating systems on mobile, and they've gained about a couple percent since, just the last quarter, and then a couple percent from the quarter before that. Okay, so they have a massive gain when it comes to market share on their operating system install base, which is what I really care about, right? Because for every percent of install base, I mean, they're exponentially gaining more and more revenue, right? Because the App Store is such a, its own ecosystem. They have like what I call, a Z-axis monopoly. I've talked about this topic before, but basically what a horizontal monopoly is, like, let's say Walmart or Amazon, where they control, retail, and then vertical monopolies where you control each part of the manufacturing process of your product. So like a good example of that is like US Steel back in the day, and a Z-axis monopoly is what I call like when you have your product, your platform, and then you control all the software that goes onto that platform, like Apple does, or like Tesla will. Okay, so Tesla's one of the reasons why I think Tesla will do really well, and it has the potential to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest companies in the world, is because they have what's close to a vertical monopoly when it comes to their production, right? They don't have a horizontal monopoly when it comes to vehicles, but they damn near do have horizontal monopoly when it comes to electric vehicles at the moment, and they might bite into the um, total vehicle market eventually. And then on top of that, they have a Z-axis monopoly on their software, which they feed into their cars, and their consumers can buy off of them, right? So it's they're monopolizing a lot. So the potential is really good there. It's just all about the execution. And if you ask me if I own any Tesla, I don't, and that's because the value investor in me tells me not to buy Tesla because it's like selling 1,100 times earnings or something silly like that. It's extremely overvalued, and it's got, even though I think it has a chance to become one of the biggest companies in the world, it's not for me. It's just too big of a risk. There's too much chance for error, too much things that could go wrong, and the competition is going to be very, very severe because the more success you experience in something, the competitors come at you even more viciously. Yeah, so if somebody sees that you're doing something successful, like everybody ignored Tesla in the beginning because they thought EV, yeah, whatever, it's too difficult. Nobody's going to want the range. The infrastructure is not there. No gas station, no electric, charging stations, what have you. But then when they saw that there's profits to be made, every company started doing an electric vehicle, right? Chevy, Ford, BMW, Audi, virtually every single car maker right now, Ford, every single car maker has some type of an electric product. They started with hybrids and now full EV, right? So more and more people are trying to steal that part of the pie to take some of those profits because they figured out that the customers do exist. And even though I'm far away from being one of those customers, I do appreciate the company and what they've been doing and the kind of revolution that they're making in transportation. Personally, I'm too much of a petrol head. I like my V10s and V12s and want to hear my engine roar, right? So I'm not going to be going into an EV, but I do have to give credit where credit's due. So anyway, that's my point about monopolies, and I think you got to monopolize something in order to make an outsized amount of money, right? It's very hard to make a good amount of money without monopolizing something. So I want to stop saying the word monopoly, okay, before I bust out some, hats, cards, and purchase Park Place or something on on video here. It's ridiculous. But that's my point about Apple, okay? So the more they steal market share, and it's not like the total addressable market here, the total amount of people that are going to be buying phones is decreasing. I mean, more and more people are going to get their hands on Apple products as it goes. And it seems like the ratio, is shifting towards Apple. Like they're actually getting more of those new buyers, and they're actually converting some Android users to Apple. And once you go Apple, you don't go back. You know that. I mean, it's the just the intuitive nature of operating the phone. It just draws people in. And now if you have to learn Android, forget it, right? So and I also think that since I'm bullish on the global economy, I think that more and more people over the next 10 years, especially some of those with younger populations, some of those countries with younger populations, some of those regions are going to experience some type of economic boom. And then more and more people are going to be able to afford more phones. And it's just, I can't see it not growing, okay? The only thing that's kind of holding me back right now is that if you do some kind of rough back of the envelope type of math, right, you have 75 million phones, 5G phones being built, and then you have other products. So those 75 million phones are going to turn into $75 billion worth of revenue. And then you have another, let's say another 100 billion worth of revenue that's going to come in over the next year from selling other types of phones and watches and app revenue, Apple Plus, etc., etc., etc. And but that all makes only 250 max, let's say $1 billion of revenue when you have a $2 trillion valuation company, and that's just revenue, right? That's not profit or anything like that. It's not new earnings. So you still have all the expenses that you have to go through. You got all your all the office buildings. You got to pay all your employees. and they have a ton of employees, like 137,000 employees or something. And then you have, you got to pay rent, store, and everything, and ads and blah blah blah, right? So you have a whole ton of expenses. I haven't looked exactly of what the trend is right now. I don't have their numbers on top of my head, but I'm just doing some kind of rough estimation, and it's still an overvalued company. Not nearly as overvalued as Tesla is, but it's expensive, and it's a very safe place to put your money. But at the same time, like, even though everybody's gonna buy the company at some point, institutions will kind of lay off a little bit and stop buying it. And I'm looking for, honestly, a hiccup to bring the valuations back into line of their somewhat historic norms, and then I will just buy more Apple. Okay, so I've sold an option call around here. I've sold 5 options around $500 per share before the split. Now 125, and then I'm gonna chill for the rest of my shares until and if Apple drops below that $500 mark, maybe towards 400, and then maybe I'll get back in again. But at this point, it's a little bit too expensive to me to keep chasing Apple. And if things go really insane, I still have 3 more option calls, thankfully, because of the split, to sell and to try to, cash in on some of those profits. I'm hoping to keep all these 3 all the way to the expiration date. I was going to keep all 4 of them, or the 1 call that I did have till the expiration date, but now it gives me an option to kind of lessen my position a little bit and collect some profits finally. So that's what I've done. I'm looking at O. Let me go back to the browser here. I'm looking at O here, and I continue to accumulate realty income. I now have $8,000 worth, and my average cost is 57.2. It's sitting at 62 at the moment. So I have a lot of put options going. So if the price ever drops to 55, 40, 55 or 50 or something like that, I'll be picking up lots of shares. I mean, doubling my position basically. So I'm looking forward to that. But I'm curious to hear or read, rather, what you all are thinking, and what, if anybody has any kind of opinion on the operating system. Do you think it matters, or do you think that phones is what matters, or like whether or not the trend is going to reverse, or you think Android or Samsung or whatever is going to come in with some kind of strong counterplay idea and they're going to start stealing market share back? Or like, I'm looking for arguments, especially from those of you that are into the technology sector a little bit, that give a little bit of a counter story to what I'm saying here, because I want to build up my mental thoughts and my thesis, right, with some input. So I'm looking to y'all to kind of help me out. So if you have an opinion, share it, and I'll think about it. Maybe I'll talk about it next time on the next video. But for now, it's been almost 20 minutes, so I'm gonna piece it out right here, and I'll make another video on Thursday. All right, peace.